Hey, it's Sonia, and welcome to the SMARTA Podcast.
Boy, if you're only going to listen to one podcast episode, make it this one, because I promise you, Bob Burg will leave you inspired, and his top 3 key takeaways that he's going to teach you are going to leave you perplexed. He's going to sit down with me and talk about why keeping your mind open is so important, and understanding your belief system, where you're coming from, and your unconscious operating system is so crucial in approaching your day-to-day life. And finally, why providing more value, and as he says, not selling a price, which just makes you another commodity, but selling value that makes you a resource is your target. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about Bob Burg. Now, he has helped companies, sales leaders, and entrepreneurs communicate their value, grow their business, and create endless referrals by focusing on what truly matters: people. And you're going to hear this over the whole episode. He's the co-author of the international bestseller, The Go-Giver, a modern classic that has sold over 1 million copies, has been translated into over 30 languages, and continues to inspire leaders and entrepreneurs around the world. He has shared stages with world-renowned thought leaders, Olympic athletes, broadcast personalities, and even a former U.S. president. At the heart of Bob's message is a simple but powerful idea that shifting our focus from getting to giving, consistently providing value to others, is not only one more way of fulfilling you, but also the most financially profitable way to live and to work. Now, here is the podcast episode. Promise you, stick to the end. It's going to be worth it. Bob Burg, welcome on the SMARTA Podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on here.
Thank you, Sonia. The pleasure and honor are mine. I am so impressed with you. My goodness. I'd say I want to be you when I grow up, but I want to be you when I get younger.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to look at you and get inspired and just implement everything that I'm about to learn from you in my daily life and in my routines. So let's kick off the episode in this way. Bob, if you can talk directly with the person listening right now, what would be your top 3 key takeaways from all of your experience that you'd want them to know before they get cozy and sit and listen to the end of the episode?
Well, so in a sense, it kind of depends on their age bracket. You know, if my, let's say, 20-year-old self was watching, and I'm 67, so I'm an old man and have sort of not only been through a lot, but realized a lot of the errors of my youth when I thought that there were certain things that were true about life, and I had to discover as I went along that a lot of things weren't. So, you know, so if I'm speaking to the 20-year-old me or the 17-year-old me or the 22-year-old me, I'm thinking, just keep your mind open to ideas that you may not have heard or may have heard or may think in a certain way, understanding that we all grow up with our own set of beliefs. And these beliefs were not beliefs that we chose, but beliefs that were handed to us. Okay, so our belief system is made up of our, what we've learned from our immediate family, our upbringing. So environment, schooling, news media, television shows, movies, popular culture, cultural mores, social media, certainly, and then all the individual experiences we've had. But, most of our belief system is kind of put in place by the time we're little more than toddlers. And so we grow up believing certain things that we weren't old enough to question these things, to check our premises and saying, well, how did the person I'm learning this from, whether it was mom or dad or my friend Susie or Tommy or the teacher in school or whatever, how did they come up with these beliefs that they're teaching me, and who taught them, right? And so we grow up and we sort of are run by what I call an unconscious operating system. So we think we're making decisions and choices based on conscious thinking and from a sense of strength, when really all our decisions that we make are based on this premise that did you ever see the movie The Matrix?
Yes.
Is that a movie? Okay, yeah. Remember Neo and the whole thing?
Absolutely familiar.
So think Matrix, but without the machines. Instead, the matrix is our beliefs that society has given us. Okay. So what we need to do is when we hear something new, not necessarily believe it. I mean, I don't want you to believe what I say just because I say it or what you read in a book or what have you, but ask the questions. Why do they believe that? Where do they get their information? On what principles or universal laws are those based? Right. And just be open to it. And so that's what I would suggest to the person, listening. And, just listen with an open mind, but question, but also question it.
Love those. I'm so excited to actually find out more about the unconscious operating system, because I feel like in today's world, just to become more self-aware is super crucial. And with this, I want to lean you over into one of your top best-selling books, Go Giver, co-authored with John David Mann, and ask you more precisely about why do you think so many people struggle with the mind shift of the go-getter, the high achiever, and how does changing our focus from getting to giving actually accelerate our success?
Yeah. So let's look at three different elements here.
All right,
So
3.
let's look at go-getter, go-giver, but then also go-taker. And let's see what they might be. So if let's say we say go-getter and we look at it in a positive way, it simply means a go-getter is someone who takes action.
Yeah.
So it neither good nor bad, just a principle. A go-getter is someone who acts, who takes action. So we know that you can have the nicest ideas, the best thoughts, and the greatest of intent. But without action, nothing's going to happen. It cannot happen. Okay. A go-getter takes action. So we like go-getters. Now, a go-giver is someone who is absolutely, totally laser focused on providing immense value to others. So we would say be a go-getter and a go-giver. Now, then we would say this, but don't be a go-taker. Because a go-taker is someone who's focused only on themselves and what's in their best interest. And typically, most go-takers tend to be very frustrated that they're not nearly as successful as they think they should be. But when you think about it, there's a good reason for it. People don't do business with other people for the sake of the business person. So I always say when I'm speaking with entrepreneurs or salespeople or whatever, I'll say, nobody's going to buy from you because you like the money.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to buy from you because you want to make the sale. Okay. No, people are going to buy from you or do business with you because they believe that they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. This is human nature, and there's nothing wrong with that. Why would we expect someone to do business with us because we want to make money? No, the money we make is the result of providing something to another person that they want. Okay, that's why John David Mann and I say that money is simply an echo of value. The value must come first. So if you want to be successful in business, you must find a way to help your potential customer or client see that they have a decided advantage by buying from you, that their life is going to be better or their business is going, whatever it happens to be that and that what they're going to receive from you is worth more than the money that they're exchanging for it. Now, the nice part about this is that if someone really has a heart for service, for serving others, they actually have much more of an advantage than the person who's the go-taker. But that's not what people have grown up to believe. I don't know about where you are, Sonia, but we're in the United States, we always hear these stories, and all the movies and the television shows are about the horrible business people who lie and cheat and steal. And yeah, it's a big world. There are plenty of people like that. But for most of us in business, no one's forced to do business with us, and we're not going to steal from someone. So the only way we can earn a lot of money is by providing a product or service that other people want, right? So that's real world thinking. But most people have not grown up seeing that. So there's nothing self-sacrificial about it, about trying to please another person. No, you have to do that in order for them to want to do business with you. Now, when it comes from the heart, though, well, that's even better, because now, you feel a sense of self-satisfaction and you feel good about what you're doing. You're helping other people, and you're simply getting rewarded for that with income.
You've seen me nodding my way through this, and it's because when you mentioned the Go-Giver and how they're all focused around providing immense value, first thought went directly to my mom, because ever since I've known her, she's just been so generous, always putting in the extra effort, the extra mile. And I look up at her and always want to be more like her. And this took me back to something that you said in your keynote events, that excellence combined with consistency equals great value.
Sure.
And this is something that I believe you're very, very profound upon, and it's one of your values. And this leads me into questioning to you about the 5 laws of stratospheric success in the book. And I want to go deeper and ask you if you can walk me through these 5, and then which one is the one that we might often underestimate the most?
Okay. Well, so the laws themselves are the laws of value, compensation, influence, authenticity, and receptivity. So the law of value is simply about making sure that you provide a wonderful buying experience to whoever does business with you. And much more than just the product or the service itself, which is, of course, very, very important, but even more than that. So we used as an example, Frate's Italian restaurant, his Italian cafe. Now, the food was really good, but it was more than that. It was the entire ambience of the restaurant. It was the way that you were welcomed when you came in, and how they escorted you to the table, and the team of wait staff, and the way that they knew when to, come over and help, and when to kind of leave you alone to talk, and how Ernesto would come over to every table and say hello, and he knew people's name, he remembered people's names. So the whole experience was worth much more than simply the food itself. So when we can, regardless of our business, when we can make that experience for the customer so extraordinary, then they are receiving more than what they paid for, while we also make a healthy profit. So when we say the law of value, your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. That doesn't mean you're losing money. No, it means that the other person just feels so wonderful about the experience, they're happy to pay you, and both parties win. Right? Now, the law of compensation takes it a step further. It says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So let's go back to Frate's restaurant again. He doesn't just serve one person. He serves lots and lots and lots of people every day with that exquisite customer experience.
Yeah.
So because of that, he makes a lot more money. Now, law number 3, the law of influence, says your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Now, let me qualify that statement. When John and I say place other people's interests first, we don't mean you should be a doormat for anyone or a martyr or self-sacrificial. Not at all. It's understanding, as Joe, the protege in the story, learned from several of the mentors, the golden rule of sales, the golden rule of business, is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And Sonia, there is no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit those feelings toward you from others than by genuinely moving from that I focus or me focus to a focus on them. Or as Sam, one of the mentors in the story, advised Joe, it's making your win all about the other person's win. Now, law number 4 is the law of authenticity. And this says the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. Now, in this part of the story, the main mentor was Deborah, and Deborah shared that all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they are, and they are all indeed very, very important, they're also all for naught if you don't come at it from your true, authentic core. But when you do, when you show up as yourself, day after day, week after week, month after month, people feel good about you. They feel comfortable with you. and they feel safe with you. Why wouldn't they? They know exactly who they're getting. Now, some people, I think, they take the word authenticity, and I think they maybe interpret it in a way that's not really productive. As for some people, I notice, authenticity to them means no boundaries. Just say or do whatever you want because it's, I disagree with that. That would be like the person who says, well, I have anger issues and I yell at people a lot. And if I were to act any differently, that wouldn't be authentic of me. Nah, I don't think so. I think it means that this person has an authentic problem that they need to authentically work on in order to become a better, higher, more effective, authentic version of themselves. So we never want to confuse authenticity with refusing to grow. My definition, I guess, of authenticity is simply acting congruently with your value system. So I think when we're doing that, we're authentic and we're on the right track. And then law number 5, the final law, is the law of receptivity. And this kind of ties it together because this one says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. And here's how John and I like to explain this. You breathe out, right? And you breathe in. It's not one or the other. And that would be difficult, right? In order to survive, in order to thrive, you breathe out and you breathe in.
Yeah.
You breathe out carbon dioxide, you breathe in oxygen. You breathe out, which is giving. You breathe in, which is receiving. So giving and receiving are not really opposite concepts. Giving and receiving are simply two sides of the very same coin, and they work together in tandem. The challenge, I think, is, and again, I don't know about where you are, but here in the States and other places, the world tends to give us a very negative message about prosperity, about money, about business, right? And so, my friend Randy Gage, who's a prosperity authority, he calls it, anti-prosperity messages. And you see it everywhere. Again, it can be upbringing, your environment, it's against schooling or movies. Look at every movie. And Randy makes the point, in just about every movie, there are typically two types of people who are portrayed. There are the good people who are usually portrayed as poor, struggling, but they're always honest and they're happy, right? But then these people, these good people, are always being stepped on, stepped over, stepped around, taken advantage of by who? The evil rich people who are nasty and greedy and heartless and have no soul, right? And it's practically every movie. So that's just a movie. No, it isn't. It's pretty much every movie, and it's the cultural message. So people grow up. Remember, we were talking about the belief systems? And so not only does this come into their conscious, it goes into the unconscious. And so people have all these negative messages about money, and they don't even know it. So what happens is, you're out in the world and you're starting to provide great value to people and you're getting some success and some money's coming in. But now the unconscious is saying, wait a second. If you're making money, doesn't that mean you've been dishonest? Doesn't that mean you've stepped on people's toes? Doesn't that mean you've done something right? And so what do? We push it away, sabotage our success and so forth. So it's it's a big challenge. And this is why I suggest to people, and I guess this would be the second thing you'd ask me about, several things that I would suggest to people listening. So the second thing is make a study of prosperity. Now, in The Go-Giver, John and I spoke about it briefly, but as you know, it's a parable, it's a short story, so you can't really get into detail. But there are a lot of people out there who are wonderful teachers on prosperity mindset. So there are people like Randy Gage. There are people like David Nagel. There are people like Sharon Lecter. There are people like Lisa Peterson, Leisa Peterson. There are people like Ellen Rogan. There are people like the late Bob Burg, people like Derek Kinney. And I feel bad naming people because there's so many more that I'm not naming that I'm leaving out because there's so many wonderful prosperity teachers. But look these people up, subscribe to their blogs, watch their videos, get their recordings or, whatever it happens to be, and make a study of prosperity. Why? Because the anti-prosperity rubbish comes into our heads in our lives all the time from all around us. We need to actually seek out the good, clean, valuable, prosperity-based thinking. And all these people who I mentioned and the many others who are wonderful teachers of this, you'll notice that 99.9% of what they teach is the mindset aspect. It's simply how to get past those mental blocks that have been given to us. So that would be, something that I would really highly recommend.
I want to take you back to what you said about value and expand on that a little. In particular, because as you often say in your speeches, success in business and life is only 10% technical skills and 90% people skills. And I love this. Do you know why? Because I feel like lately so many people confuse the words hard skills and soft skills, and they categorize, I guess, being an empathetic person into the soft skills. But actually, they're as important as being confident. What do you think, in terms of entrepreneurs or early professionals, is the first thing they should do in succeeding their roles?
Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to tell you, I love how you think. I love your thought process. When I was your age, I had no idea about any of this stuff. It wasn't even in my mind to
Thank you.
know
I
about.
guess I'm doing something right.
Oh yeah, you are so far ahead of where I was, and I just love this. So okay, so you have a book in your library back there that I'm looking at I think it's over your right shoulder, called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
Now, it was written in, I think, 1936, although it's been updated by people in his company and family and so forth and so forth. I would suggest everybody get that book. That's where it starts, okay, with that book, because it is absolutely vital that you master people skills. Why? Because that's who you're dealing with. Now, well, what about AI? AI can be very helpful. It's not a person. And it's never going to be as effective. AI is, you use AI to help you in any way that you can be helped. Okay, great,
Yeah.
wonderful. Of course, take advantage of any tools that you can, but it will absolutely never replace a human connection.
Yeah.
Okay. And so here's something really interesting. And I wish I knew the name of the person, and I don't. But somebody on LinkedIn because I had written something about people skills, and they wrote a comment saying that they were talking to the person. I think the person was with Microsoft AI. He had something to do. And so somebody asked that person with Microsoft AI, and he was one of the big, people. Again, I just don't remember the name or didn't hear the name. And they asked him, what's the one piece of advice you would give an up and coming entrepreneur? And he said, learn people skills. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, because of the advances in technology over the last even 20 years or so, many young people growing up have not had a chance to develop people skills because they text all the time, or I'm telling you, it is the most important thing you can learn, people skills, and learning to understand human nature, which is what Dale Carnegie talks about in the book too. And that's how so people skills are meant as becoming a master of people skills is a way that you help everyone in the process. But yes, it's so important because, as Dale Carnegie says, one of the biggest mistakes we as human beings make is thinking that we're dealing with logical people. By and large, we're not. We are emotion-based people.
Completely true.
We'd like to think we're logical, and to a certain degree, of course, we are, but we're pretty emotion-based. We make major decisions based on emotion, and we back up those emotion-based decisions with logic. We rationalize. And if you break up the word rationalize, it simply means we tell ourselves rational lies. And we tell ourselves these lies to justify the emotion-based decision we made. So you've got to understand that when you deal with people, their ego is going to get in the way. Their emotions are going to get in the way. Their thought processes, their unconscious operating system is going to get in the way. And you need to know how to work with people in such a way that, you can attain the results you want while helping them feel genuinely good about themselves, about the situation, and about you. So when you advance everyone in the process, that's when your influence becomes just sky high.
And I want to add something onto what you said about AI, that actually more than ever now, the human connection and the human touch of everything that we do in our work lives is more important than ever.
More important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's the thing. Technology in all its forms over the last, let's say, 50 to 70 years has leveled the playing field. In other words, what I mean is most products work.
Yeah.
Most products and services work. They work pretty well, and they work about as well as their competing products. And now with AI and things that are to come that we don't even know, it's going to be more so. So when you have a level playing field, okay, it means that, yes, you've got to be skilled and you've got to be, have talent, and you've got to know your business and so forth. But everybody else does too. That doesn't distinguish you from anyone else. That's why we say 10% technical skills or job skills. What's going to distinguish you are your people skills. Yeah, that's the key. So yeah, again, great AI, wonderful. Let's all use it to the degree that it helps us accomplish and create those. Wonderful. Just don't ever think it's going to replace you as a human being. It isn't.
Bob Burg, I want to move you now into the SMARTA Podcast traditions. I've got 2 questions up for you. First, I want to put you up to a 60-second challenge about the Go Giver series. Why is the person listening to this right now losing so much if they don't go ahead and grab a copy and read the Go Giver series? Pitch the book and the series to the listener.
Well, first, there are people who already are doing all those things that we talk about in the books, but they're doing it intuitively. They don't even know why. They don't even know they're
important.
Have a way of doing things in a really wonderful way. I think so what we found just from feedback we received is that those people who already are doing those things have found in the book a way to kind of accelerate that even more, okay? Because we make it a little more specific. And then there are the people who maybe grew up with a different belief system that was contrary to that, but now they're kind of open to the idea that maybe there's another way of doing it where I can not only be more successful financially, but actually feel great about what I'm doing and be excited about my work and go to work every day. And I just can't wait to get there because I know that it's something that's fulfilling to me. So that's what I would suggest for people who are considering reading it.
Amazing. Question number 2. As you mentioned before in the green room, you complimented my library. I loved reading. What would you say, Bob Burg, would be the top 2 books that completely changed your perspective on life?
Yeah, and as you can tell, through the video, I have a really big library. I like to say this, Sonia. My house is comprised of books with
I love that.
scattered furniture.
Ah, amazing. It's the way it should be. Yeah.
So let's look at, you asked 2 books, you said? Okay, so 2 books that have really made a huge difference for me. One is called Psycho-Cybernetics. Now, this book was written in 1960. You can see all the marked pages and the notes.
I love that.
So forth.
Yes.
I still have my notes from I think it was 83 or something. So it was written by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Maxwell Maltz. He is the first person who really taught me through his. I read it. I think it was 1983 or something. When I read it, I was probably early 20s. I don't remember. But anyway, it was the first book that really taught me how important the unconscious mind is, and how everything we do is driven by our unconscious mind. Everything we think, feel, say, do, every decision we make. And one of the things he pointed out is that, you can never achieve more than your most limiting self-belief. Wow. So that was very important to me. That was one book. Another book, and I actually have it in my car right now, so I don't have it right in front of me, but it's by a gentleman named Michael Singer. It's called Living Untethered. Now, he's written three big books, not big size, but I mean very important books. One most people are familiar with is called The Untethered Soul. It was a great book. His second one was The Surrender Experiment, which doesn't mean you're surrendering, giving up. It means you're allowing life to happen as it does, and you go with it, and you so forth. But the third book, Living Untethered, to me is an absolute game changer. It is really all about, again, it goes into our beliefs, but really where they come from, how they hold us back when we don't know they are, how to release them, how to understand our world better, how to understand ourselves better. And I would highly, highly recommend anyone and everyone get that book, Living Untethered by Michael A. Singer.
Living Untethered and Psycho-Cybernetics. Bob Burg, I started the episode in this way. I want to end it likewise. So if you can talk directly with the person listening right now, what would be your end message that you would like to leave them with?
Well, I'd like to say become a student of life, just like you are, Sonia. I mean, you're going about it the right way. You're not only reading books, but you're talking to other people. Okay. Yeah. You're going out into the world. You're doing things. You're taking action. Okay. Yeah. You're probably making some mistakes. And you know how I know you're making mistakes? Because you're taking action.
Yeah.
And part of taking action is making some mistakes. Mm-hmm. But then you're adjusting and you're figuring things out. And then you're getting more successful. And then you make another mistake, and then you do something, and you get more successful because you learn from it, and you keep studying. And that's what it is. Do these things without emotional attachment to the results, because sometimes really good things are going to happen, and sometimes really yucky things are going to happen. Okay. But if you're heading continually in the right direction, doing the right things in the right way, always looking to be of value to others, to make yourself valuable to others, and taking action toward that, you cannot help but be very, very successful.
I love that. And you just brought into my mind a quote that Stephen Bartlett, the best-selling author and the podcast host of the Diary CEO, says so often, that what if you were only 30 failures away from finally reaching that goal, that success? And with that, I really, truly want to thank you for inspiring me and making me realize that I'm on the right track. It means so much to me.
You are. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on the podcast.
My pleasure.
Wow. I am in awe of everything that I just learned, and how money is an echo of value, and how everything really should just center and surround itself by value. I'm so excited that you took the time to listen to a podcast episode that will nurture your soul, understand where you're coming from, and has timeless of principles of influence, success, and service. Bob Burg's The Go-Giver series books are linked down below. Grab yourself a copy today and follow his LinkedIn to see what he's up to, because he is always inspiring new people and effectively teaching them how to communicate through value, selling with higher prices, lower resistance, growing your business. And he's an amazing guy. So just do it. And if you've made it this far into the podcast episode, I just wanted to tell you to double check that you're subscribed and rate this podcast 5 stars so we can keep bringing you amazing guests. I just wanted to tell you, I believe in your ability to create the life of your dreams. And I'm Sonia Marta. This was the SMARTA Podcast, and see you next Monday.